Good evening. My name is Tony Duval, and I am a teacher in the Peel District School Board and a member of the FOLD Kids Bookfest planning team. I'm really excited to be your moderator tonight. We are pleased to offer closed caption technology for today's session and for all the sessions this weekend. Welcome to What's the Buzz? 2020's Best Children's Titles for Teachers, Parents, and Librarians. Before I introduce our guests, here's a bit of a rundown of the event. It'll go until about 9 p.m. Ardo and Khary will go back and forth to present their top 3 picks for 3 age categories: picture books, middle grade, and young adult. The chat will be closed today, but we encourage you to ask questions using the Q&A function. If you can be specific about the level you're wondering about, that is helpful because we will be answering questions after each section as opposed to all the questions at the end of the event. You could also take the conversation to social media using the hashtag FoldKids2020. With that out of the way, welcome Ardo Omer and Khary, Mathurin, and I'll let them tell you a little bit about themselves.
Hi, I'm Khary Mathurin. I work at Another Story Bookshop where I am the education support manager. I spend a lot of time with kids books, middle grade and YA and everything in between.
My name is Ardo Omer. I am the kids coordinator for the Festival of Literary Diversity, aka the FOLD.
Excellent. Let's get started with picture books. There's a script, Tony. There's a script. Stay on the script. So I think we're starting with Ardo and our first recommendation.
Yeah, so we're starting with picture books, and I'm excited to start with this one, Birdsong by Julie Flett. It's a beautiful book. It is about a young girl who moves to the country. She befriends an elderly woman who also loves in arts and crafts. So that friendship really helps her as she experiences basically a year in this new place that she felt out of place. And she's also dealing with this new friend whose health is failing as well. I'm going to show you some of the interiors because truly, like Julie Flett is unstoppable. Her art is gorgeous. There are many beautiful pages in the book. So key takeaways from the book and why you guys should add it to your book list. There's a glossary and pronunciation on the copyright page. There are instances of Métis Cree being used, which is really cool. Julie Flett herself is Métis Cree. There's an educator's guide that you can actually find on the publisher's website, which I recommend checking out as well. And the structure of the story as well is based on the season. So it starts off with spring and then goes through the seasons, and you actually see how the story unfolds through that. And it's great for ages 3 to 8.
Cool. I guess I'll chime in with my first pick. Is Selma the Syrian Chef. It's a beautiful picture book. It's by Danny Ramadan and Anna Braun. It's a story about Selma and her mother who recently moved to Vancouver from Syria. And during this time, they've become separated from Selma's father, who's still in Syria. And this is bringing both of them down, but especially her mom, who is pretty despondent. And noticing this, Selma decides that she's going to make her mom one of her favorite dishes. But she also realizes that she has no clue how to do this. So she enlists the help of a number of people in her community to sort of make it all come together. And there's a lot of near misses, but they end up bringing it all together in the end. And her mom is overjoyed with the sight of the food. It's excellent because it's a story, it's several different stories combined. There's a lot going on here. There's the refugee experience, the experience of being separated from your family. There's also finding community in the place that you've landed. Basically, without the number of people in her community, Selma wouldn't be able to pull off cooking the meal that she wants to do. And she comes across many other people who are also refugees and have their own special meals that they like. And she comes across queer families and all sorts of folks. Oh yeah, also the illustrations are really amazing. They kind of have like this like Disney-like quality to them a little bit, kind of like old school, really old school Disney. But yeah, it's a beautiful story.
My next pick is Violet Shrink. I think we're gonna share the screen so you get a chance to see the cover and interior. But Violet Shrink is a book written by Christine Baldacchino with art featuring art by Carmen Mock. It's a great book because it's about a girl named Violet who has anxiety. And so throughout the book, she's constantly being asked to go to, gatherings by her father. But she always finds herself either hidden away somewhere, listening to music, doing coping skills to deal with anxiety that she feels. And also part of that involves imagining herself as like various animals. So as you can see with the interior page here, is a photo of Violet as a shark. But what's cute about this is that she still has her little purple glasses. And by the end of it, she finds the courage to talk to her dad and like sit him down and explain why gatherings, regardless of the various names that he tries to call them to kind of trick her into going to these events, aren't something she's comfortable doing because of her anxiety. It's something I definitely, like, as you can see, the art by Carmen Mock is beautiful. It's gorgeous, it's cute. But it's also perfect for kids because it allows for, really young kids to be able to vocalize when they have feelings that they may not really understand how to communicate. But it's also really great for parents and, adults in their lives, because as adults, we tend to minimize the feelings of children. And already mental health as a conversation in general in communities is really hard to have. And so being able to listen to kids and truly understand what they're feeling is really important. And this book does a really good job of conveying that as well. Perfect for ages 3 to 7. Yeah, check out Violet Shrink.
So my next one is Swift Fox All Along, which is a picture book by Rebecca Thomas and Maya McGibbon. It's a story about a girl named Swift Fox who goes to, basically her dad takes her to visit some relatives who she hasn't met before. And he says on the beginning of their journey that Swift Fox is going to learn learn about being Micmac, which is their heritage. And Swift Fox realizes that they don't really know that much, and it kind of makes them nervous. So initially they arrive and Swift Fox feels a little bit uncomfortable or just a little bit uncertain as to where they fit in. They don't quite understand the smudging ritual that that the relatives want them to take part in, and they feel like they don't quite know how to get along with their relatives, so they kind of flee the room. But eventually they come across another relative of theirs who's also very nervous, also doesn't quite have much experience with the family rituals, and through talking to their cousin and also smelling the cooking of bannock, which is something that that's what Fox remembers, but didn't quite realize that this was a part of their heritage. Through all of those things, they end up sort of coming to feel more at home and more comfortable there. Yeah, so it's really good. It's excellent, obviously, to have like Indigenous representation in picture books, which you have a number of those actually, but I thought it's an interesting story to talk about connecting with your heritage, which you might have a vague familiarity with, but not necessarily feel comfortable like claiming every single part of it just yet, because you may not understand it. And the author speaks to that as well in the back of the book. Right. Again, beautiful illustrations. I feel like we just all are suckers for beautiful illustrations, but beyond that, there's a page, an author's note here, where they discuss their process of learning about Mi'kmaq traditions and also feeling like out of place at times, and how they sort of managed to deal with that.
Yeah, that actually leads beautifully into my next pick, My Day with Gong Gong. It's by Sena Yi, who wrote it, and Elaine Chen. What's great about this book, and it's what's similar to Swift Fox all along, is it's about a young girl named May who spends the day with her grandfather, who goes to Chinatown to run some errands. And throughout the book, she grows frustrated because her grandfather, who doesn't really speak English and only speaks Cantonese, and she doesn't really understand Cantonese, as she tries to vocalize the various issues that she may have, or things that she wants to ask, or the people who are talking to her grandfather, she doesn't understand what's happening, and so that language barrier, it becomes very frustrating for her, and she kind of blows up in the end. But what she realizes is that her grandfather was paying attention, despite the barriers. And what's really great about that is this book is great for kids like me. I'm a first generation Canadian. Actually, I don't think I technically am, because I technically emigrated at a year and a half. But the point is, I was basically raised by a third parent, aka my grandmother. So there was a lot of language barriers there. So I understand May a lot, but we were still able to communicate for the most part, even though it's harder. And so what's great, actually, I'm going to show you some interiors. So it's great for kids who are probably like me, who are at this age level. So this is very cute and expressive. So kids like me who are at that age level experiencing that, but also other kids, because you may be encountering people maybe outside of your family who may not speak the same language as you. And so that's a bit of an exposure to kids who will likely be reading this. There's a glossary at the end, which is really cool, about which helps you pronounce and understand the definitions of the Cantonese words being used. And gong gong is actually something used for the maternal grandfather. And so, yeah, great for ages 4 to 6. I really, really enjoyed this one.
Another one here. There we go. So my last pick here is When We Are Kind, which is Monique Grace Smith's new book, along with Nicole Neihart. It's skews a little bit younger than the two other books that I've picked. It's seemingly simple. It's just describing simple acts of kindness that a child can perform. But then halfway through the book, the perspective sort of flips, and let's see if we find it here, and talks about how you feel when you're on the receiving end of acts of kindness. And I also enjoy the fact that it not only talks about kindness between you and another person, it's also kindness to yourself, and taking care of yourself, but also kindness towards the earth and the environment. So in the end, it sort of stresses that we're all related, in the sense that there's a really profound interconnection between all things. So it kind of starts off really simple, but then drives at these much larger themes. So it's probably pretty useful for you if you're trying to address some of those themes with really young kids. You can sort of just sort of nudge them in that direction with this book.
Those are great recommendations, and our Q&A is surprisingly quiet. I think that our audience is tired, and they're just so enjoying your descriptions of these books. They're like, I don't have a question. You're telling me it all. But I'm going to ask some questions for them because I feel like I would like to go a little bit deeper about picture books. And I just want to take the theme of, I guess, voices that you feel were missing from the picture books that you were able to choose from. Did you feel like there was a section, like something that you were looking for and you just couldn't find it? I know this is kind of a theme like with books in general, but I thought for picture books, maybe it's something we can kind of hone in on.
Khary, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, there were a number of things that we were looking for that we didn't quite find. Like there seemed to be a lack of books by disabled writers from a disabled point of view. So that is something that we noticed a lack of. I did notice earlier today, actually, I noticed that it's a very interesting thing. I noticed that there is a book that was to be published by a deaf writer. I'm sorry, I forget the name. But it turns out there's a whole issue with other issues around representation around race in that book. So it's missing from this list. But yeah, that's definitely something we'd want to see more of, not just physical disabilities, but also authors who are on the spectrum or anything like that as well.
So I'm just gonna, is it okay if I just add because the author's name is Adam Pottle, and if people are on Twitter and follow Adam, I think it was yesterday he mentioned that, and now there's an article written by Huffington Post kind of exploring the concerns he had with the book that he's actually not endorsing.
Right, exactly.
He's the author of his own book, and I was so excited because Adam's a great author, and having a picture book by a deaf author, because he wants to get this into the hands of kids, and he just feels like he can't back it. He tried to go to the publisher and say, no, I'm concerned about the imagery. One of the characters is very stereotypical, and they didn't agree with him, and it's still out there.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, in terms of what's missing, disabled voices, you're going to notice as well as we go out through this event, disabled voices are missing in Kidlit in general. And it's a huge problem. I know even for programming for the Fold, it's something that we were desperately trying to find more of. And I think especially with physical disabilities as well, it's really important to highlight that. I mean, I chose Violet Shrink, which is about anxiety, right? That's an invisible issue that people deal with, but definitely physical disability and maybe even the more marginalized invisible disabilities of like mental health, whether it's schizophrenia and things like that, need to be represented. But specifically with the Adam Pottle situation, I think it's important because it talks about own voices as well. When we say own voices, we mean if the book's focus is on a marginalized community or a marginalized person's experience, then the person writing the story should be of that experience. And the reasons for that is, it's important for that community to define its own stories, because the privileged community is always telling those people's stories. But it's also important in terms of who gets paid to tell those stories. Now with picture books specifically, when we talk about own voices, it's not enough if the illustrator is from that marginalized identity, it has to be the writer. And what's really interesting with Adam's situation is the fact that when you do a picture book, there has to be more of a communication back and forth between the writer and the art. It can't be disconnected because together they're building a book. And I've noticed, and it really depends on the publisher in terms of whether an illustrator and a writer will have a really close relationship when working together, and the writer will get to say, I'm not feeling this, I'm feeling this. And sometimes they're completely disconnected from that process. And I think that's something that people really need to evaluate, especially when it comes to marginalized writers on either side. It's not enough to have an Indigenous writer, illustrator behind a book that's about being Indigenous if the writer is white. And it's not enough for a deaf author to write a book about their own experience if an illustrator is perpetuating harmful stereotypes.
Right, of course.
Yeah. So I think also something else to bring up in terms of who's missing is Black men, for example, not really out here writing picture books, and we should definitely see more of that.
Absolutely.
I think if it's okay with you, I think we're going to go to middle grade.
Yeah, let's do this. I
All
think you're
right.
starting us off today.
Yeah, I'll start it off with a book. It's really adorable, called CL. It is about a trans preteen, just as they're about to start high school. So it might sound a bit strange, middle grade high school, but it's set in Montreal, and their junior high school system begins at grade 7. So the character of CL is age 12. So it's a very it's both really sweet, and it also goes pretty in depth into the trans experience, and it also features a number of different trans characters who all have their own views on that. Like CL is gender nonconforming, so they are having a little bit of trouble when they start high school, because they're not really sure how they're going to fit in, and it's not and some of the other classmates have a lot of questions about their presentation, what their name is. Not even the classmates, their teachers also have issues with misgendering them and naming them as well. And then I found it really interesting that there's this sort of comparison with Steffi, who's CL's best friend, who is a trans girl who in this new start to high school, just like when you start any kind of new schooling, sometimes kids want to start fresh or have a whole new dimension to how people see them. In this case, Steffi, as a trans girl who doesn't want to disclose that she's trans necessarily. So there's a real tension there between her experience and her friends, who doesn't really have the option of disclosing, because being gender nonconforming, people sort of point them out anyways. Also, another good thing, sorry, let me know if you need me to rate it in. Another thing that I loved about this book was that CL is a YouTuber. So that's a unique position to have a character, and very relevant to a lot of middle grade readers, and the book kind of works like following a YouTuber. Like you get it's sort of like experiencing a period of time in their life. It's not hyper plotted and hypertension. It's more like you sort of hang out with CL and sort of experience their life, down to even knowing their favorite kind of chips. So it's very, very cute.
And who's the author for this
book?
book?
Thank you. Yes, it's Sophie LaBelle.
Don't thank me. Thank the lovely person who asked in the Q&A box.
Thank you, Q&A. Yes, keeping us on track. Yeah.
It happens when you're talking about books.
Yeah.
My first middle grade pick is Music for Tigers by Michelle Cataroosman. Michelle is actually going to be moderating the middle grade event we're having on Saturdays, so I definitely recommend that. It's called This Really Happened. But Music for Tigers is a lovely middle grade book about a girl named Louisa who's Canadian, and she's sent off to Australia to visit her mother's brother, her uncle, who lives in this remote camp in Tasmania. And so she's not happy being there for the summer. She wants to just practice her violin so she can what's the word I'm looking for? So she can audition for the orchestra, the youth orchestra. But while she's there, she starts to read her grandmother's journals about her great-grandmother's journals about how she started a sanctuary to protect endangered species in that area. And so just even though the Tasmanian tiger is extinct to the wider world, there's actually, her grandmother was protecting, her great-grandmother and her family has been protecting them. But they actually technically haven't seen a tiger in years until she's there, because it's drawn to her music. And so it's a lovely story. They need to find a way to find the tiger and move it further into the forests, because the remote camp where her uncle calls home is actually being demolished. And so that's what they're doing. It's written by Michelle Cataroosman, as I said, who is a person of color. She's biracial. And so what's great is she wrote a book last year that tied to her in Indonesian side of the family. And so although the book itself does not feature people of color, because it's specifically her mother's side of the family, definitely something to support Michelle in. It's a beautiful book. It's a very gentle middle grade book. A friend of mine had described it that way, and I think that's a perfect way to explain it. It does something beautiful in making a connection between music and nature. And so I highly recommend it. It's very sweet. And it's perfect for, perfect for like 9 to 12 years old, 9 to 12 year olds.
Cool. My next one is Orange is for Sunsets by Tina Athide. It's a historical fiction. So it's set in 1972 in Uganda. So just around the time that Idi Amin gave Indian Ugandans 90 days to leave the country. And basically it's about the friendship between an Indian Ugandan girl named Asha and a African Ugandan named Yasofu. And it is, it's, the dual perspective thing works so well in this novel, in the sense that obviously it provides a very stark contrast between the two sides of like this issue. And it's sort of becomes a little bit about, it becomes both about Yasofu's coming awareness of like how basically colonialism and has like baked in structural inequality into Uganda. And it's also Asha's coming awareness that basically has been living in a very privileged position. And so they're trying to like reconcile those two things with still wanting to be friends, still wanting to be together, even though it's basically inevitable that she has to leave. So yeah, it's kind of heavy, but also light at the same time. Like it's not really beating you over the head with the history lesson, although in the back there is a really helpful chronological listing of events. So if you're looking for more specific details, you can go to the back and check those out. But it does a very good job of, talking about issues of like colonialism, and how that sort of has played out over a long period of time leading up to 1972 and this period. So Tina is, her family left Uganda shortly before the 90-day for the period that they were given. So she is definitely, it's connecting a little bit to Asha's part of this, but she really does do a good job of kind of like highlighting the various, sort of complex reasons of why certain Africans responded to this to the 90-day ruling with such positivity. It was very compelling, very good read.
Do you want to show the cover again?
Yeah, sure.
While you're sharing the cover, can I just, because this question's about this book specifically,
Mhm.
is it easy to know which narrator is speaking? Or do kids have to do a lot of inferring?
No, it's very clear. It's very easy. Like you get their name. It's very clear like who's speaking. And the difference between yeah, the tone of like the two characters is pretty stark. Like Yosofu's just sort of becoming more and more like uh agitated is the wrong word, but just like kind of upset with like the basic unfairness of how society's set up, whereas Asha is sort of begins being like, what do you mean, what's wrong? So it's very clear like who, and also like, I mean, yeah, it's doesn't become that much of like a prominent thing, but like it is like divided pretty starkly along gender lines that way as well. So, which you know, but it does at least make it clear like who's talking. So.
Awesome. So my next pick, we're going to do a screen share because I don't have a physical copy. And it's The Case of the Missing Auntie by Michael Hutchinson. We actually had Michael last Saturday as part of the Fantastic Fiction for Young Readers panel. It is a sequel to the Mighty Muskrats mystery. And the Mighty Muskrats are 4 cousins who are from the Windy Lake First Nation. And in this book, they left their reservation to attend an exhibition fair in the big city. But when Chickadee hears from her grandfather about his little sister Charlotte being taken when they were younger as part of like the 60 Scoops, which essentially is when the government essentially took kids out of indigenous homes and essentially sent them off to be adopted across Canada and even internationally as far as New Zealand. The four of them decide to make that their next case, which is to find their missing auntie. And what's really great about this book is its mystery. I think it's really important to highlight genre. I love adult mystery. And I read things like, I don't know, like Fear Street and things like that as a kid, although that's more of the horror side of things. And so to have mystery but about marginalized characters is really cool. And in this case, they really do talk about, you get a very specific perspective that you don't often get, which is kids on the res and how they experience things. And then also, you know, we all know the 60 Scoop, which, you know, continued long after the 60s, is a very big topic and heavy topic, but it is a topic that I think is handled really well in this book. And I think, and it's important to understand that, you know, traumatic things like that do not just stay within a generation, as evidenced by the fact that their, you know, grandfather's sister is still missing, right? It's someone who is literally not present in their lives. And you can see that it's something that still hurts for their grandfather, and you feel that, right, even as a kid. So I think that's a really important thing to consider. But yeah, it's a great book. Like, it's fun.
Okay, so with my next, I believe this is the one I'm talking about. Yes, okay. With my next pick, sort of going back to Africa again, with Child Soldier, which might be a title that is familiar to a number of you. It is one of the older titles that I've picked. We decided to go with it because it's been recently published in paperback, and there might be a chance that you kind of missed it or overlooked it beforehand. I know that it's part of the Citizen Kid series, and quite a number of those books are picture books. So you might have also assumed that this was a picture book as well, or have had that expectation. That was sort of the case actually at the store, where I think we originally expected it to be a picture book, whereas it's actually a very like solid historical graphic novel for yeah, and sort of intermediate age. So it's by Michael Chikawanin, and he's written this alongside Jessica D. Humphreys. And it's about his experience being a child soldier in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So it's set it's set back in 1993, I believe. Yeah, 1993. And it so it gives you like a little bit of context right up front, like where is the Democratic Republic of Congo? It gives, and also nice sepia tone gives you a good sense of this has happened in the past, and then it moves into the present. So when he was 5 years old, Michel was taken was taken by rebel soldiers and basically conscripted as as a soldier. And this was sort of like a very traumatic experience for him. The book does a really good job of giving you, the sense of how like horrifying that was through its illustrations without being like super gratuitous. Like there's a very sort of heart-wrenching scene in the middle. I guess this is a spoiler, but he ends up having to kill one of his friends, and it's very heart-wrenching, but it also treats it very carefully. I think it works really well for this age group. Another thing that I liked about it was I like that it focused and talked a bit about what happens after he, it begins with him landing in Canada. So you're aware that it's going to end there as well. But I like that in the period between eventually leaving Congo and being a child soldier, he kind of has to deal with like the aftermath of being a child soldier and what that means like psychologically, and how he relates to other people in his community or in his school. So I like that it talked a little bit about processing that kind of trauma.
And my final pick, Haunted Hospital by Marty Chan. I love this book. I actually read it last week and it was such a delight. I was sitting outside in my backyard in a sweater because it was very chilly, and I felt like, oh wow, this is like cottagecore, as they say, but like not in a cottage at all. It is a book about 4 kids who play a game called Spirits and Specters, which is ghost hunting, and they need a new scary location to play their game, and they come across the abandoned hospital, where it was rumored that, people were experimented on and now their ghosts roam the place. But the kids obviously don't believe any of that. But when they start playing the game in the hospital, they start to get a sense that someone might be in there with them, maybe a ghost, who knows? I know because I finished reading it, but it's great. It's published by Orca Books, but Orca, Tony's like chuckling. Orca has a line of books called Orca Currents. So they actually have high-low books, like a stream of high-low books hitting various age groups and types of storytelling, but it's essentially high interest for kids who are in middle grade and maybe younger YA, so maybe grade 9s. But the reading level is at grade 2 to 5. And so what's great is even as an adult, I really enjoyed this, even though it was very simple to read, because the premise of the book is very interesting. So it's really great for middle grade and grade 9s who may not be reading at their age level to read a book like this, and then also not feel weird about carrying this book, because this book is, I know that I've heard in the past, high-low books tended to look very much like a high-low book, and so kids were embarrassed to be reading them, but Orca's done a really good job with this book, and it's perfect for, look, we're in October. I think today's the first day of October. What is time? So definitely check this out, because this was a fun book.
There's so many notes. I'm writing so many notes. Okay, focus, Tony, focus. Question in the chat. I feel like this is just a short question because I have another question. So keep this one quick, people.
Sure.
Can you define middle grade? when you're recommending for middle grade, what's the reader you're thinking of? I guess age, grade level. What are you thinking?
That's a good question. I'll let Khary start.
I think
But
so.
Khary.
Yeah, it is a good question. I think that I think of it along the lines of grades 4 to 7-ish. So I guess that would be ages 8 or 9 to 12, verging on 13. Although I think 13 is where you start to get into more like YA territory. So generally that age range. Yeah, I was reading a bit about this actually when preparing for tonight, mostly because I was trying to figure out, yeah, I was thinking about like CL and thinking about like, oh, like where does this fit in this, in these categorizations? But yeah, I think middle grade, they tend to like they tend to be a little bit less, obviously less intense than some of the older YA, in terms of like stuff like romance. It tends to be pretty like chaste, or at least crushes, or in the case of CL, I think there is a boyfriend, but it's like, oh, we like text, so like stuff like that. So, and then the protagonist, yeah, it tends to be more about their own like discovery of themselves, kind of like, well, I guess YA is too, but there's usually almost always, as we'll see, like some kind of like heavy romantic plot or something like that, or some suggestion of that, whereas the middle grade books, they tend to be a little bit more focused on like, yeah, self and world, like self-discovery sort of situation.
Yeah, I agree with Khary.
All right, perfect. That was a good time amount. So I think that this person's question, I think that they're talking about the middle grade books you've just spoken about, probably because they're trying to narrow to which one they should buy. That's just
Gotcha.
my guess, because they're asking, of the books, like of all those books, which one had the deepest impact on you? I already know Ardo's is Haunted Hospital. Like,
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
They asked that question before you gave that answer, so
Yeah.
they didn't know you were going to be really obvious.
Right.
But yeah, and then I just have so many things to say about so many of those books. But
I will say, I think I love them all for various reasons, but again, I want to see more genre in kids' books, especially by marginalized communities. So that's why Haunted Hospital really stuck out for me, and also The Case of the Missing Auntie. Khary?
Yeah. It's really hard. I mean, the scene from Child Soldier where he like shoots his friend is like gonna be like burned into my mind, just because like what a traumatic situation. But then on the flip side, something like Ciel is so like, I love these kinds of books that are so like kind of casual, or just like, yeah, we're just like chilling with this person and they're but also talking about, yeah, trans issues so specifically and so clearly, and like without much yeah, there's not much it was refreshing because it was like they've come to these like realization about themselves. They like, their parents have already processed this information as well, so it's like very like matter of fact, like these are their lives, sort of situation, which is pretty cool. Not like some of these YA where even still there's, yeah, I mean, not to say that people don't feel pain and people don't have a lot of hardship in their lives related to their identity and the way they're positioned in the world, but sometimes it's just refreshing to like, yeah, hang out with folks and like get to know them.
I'm going to make a comment about that. Like, I so want that book right now because this year I'm teaching grade 7 and I work in a middle school. So we're 6, 7, 8. And I just am constantly reading, looking for books for my middle school. So ones that aren't like, you know, a little bit over the edge where I'm like, that's pretty mature. I don't think we're there yet. And
Right.
then not so light, like the light books are fine. I'll buy those too. But, you want sometimes something a little bit deeper where there's a little bit more conversation. And And so when you're talking about that book, I'm like, oh, I just want to read that one. And then I want to do a shout out to Hilo Books, because I think I've been reading a lot of Hilo books and working with kids who read them. And if there's authors out there, please write good Hilo books, because kids that may struggle a little bit with decoding and things have so much to say about books, and they just need to be able to access the vocabulary. And like, I like how Ardo said she read it so quickly. I love reading Hilo because I'm just like burning through them. Yeah. Right. So if you're a librarian out there, like, get some of those Hilos, you know, into different hands, and they may be not so, you know, they may become more popular because there are some good stories. All right, we have to move to the next category. There's another question, but I'll hold it for the next. I can only do so much. So I think for young adult, we're going to start with Ardo's pick.
Yes. So I chose a nonfiction graphic novel called How I Survived 4 Nights on the Ice. It's written by Sarah Pio Itusar Juat, and features art by Matthew K. Huddy. It's the story of how the writer survived he survived on the ice after his snowmobile broke down halfway through the sea ice when he was leaving from a fishing camp. And he uses his traditional skills and knowledge to survive the harsh Arctic weather. And so it's nonfiction graphic novel, and that's how it looks. And it's actually a bit thinner than what we're used to for, graphic novels, especially for young adult. But I wanted to share this book specifically because, one, it's graphic novels. I love graphic novels. We should have more of them on our list. But specifically, it's a great way to funnel through nonfiction. I find nonfiction, as an adult, I don't even read that much nonfiction. And I'm sure it's, right? So I'm sure it's really hard to really get kids of all ages to read nonfiction. So for it to be in graphic novel form, I think is really interesting. I think it's a book that's not just for the school librarian to purchase and English teachers to use, but also for, like, if you're a science teacher and you want to like talk about like survival or something, I think that's like a real cool addition to your repertoire in terms of ways with engaging with your students. It also has, so it's published by Inhabit Media, which does a really great job. It's a Inuit-owned publishing house. It publishes books that are in English, but also include Inuktitut options as well, which is really great. It's informative and, again, nonfiction, and I really enjoyed reading it. It was a quick read, but it was an informative read.
Well, I think we're going to stick with graphic novels for a little bit longer. I guess we'll have to share the screen for this one. So my next pick is Surviving the City, Volume 2, from The Roots Up. So you might be familiar with Surviving the City, Volume 1, a graphic novel I really loved as well. They're pretty like slim volumes, but they pack quite a bit in those pages. They're about the friendship and lives of two Indigenous teens, Naquan and Des. They live in Winnipeg, whereas the first one focuses more on missing and murdered Indigenous women, including Naquan's mom. The second one, you still get a lot of, there's quite a lot about like contemporary issues facing the Indigenous community, police violence, among many of them. But you also focus more on Des and Des's experience in their group home, which also leads to them sort of exploring their two-spirit identity. So they talk a lot about coming to terms with being two-spirit, but also like feeling comfortable exploring that in a group setting. There's like an after-school group program for Indigenous kids, and Des, along with the help of some newer characters who appear in the book, they are able to, sort of fully experience that from Two-Spirit elders, which ends up being very helpful for them because they experience some pushback from other elders who have very specific ideas about who does what in a specific ceremony and don't really acknowledge like the history of Two-Spirit people. One of the illustrations for this book are so cool. I think they did a really good job, but also the way that they work with Tasha Spillett's writing is really interesting. Like in both of the Surviving the City Volume 1 and 2, she really emphasizes like the presence of ancestors alongside Des and Miquon. Like for instance, in the first one, you have a lot of, you have the sense of various women, and the assumption is that they've gone missing or have been murdered, and they're sort of surrounding these characters at many points throughout the graphic novel. And then in this one, you see these other like figures appear, and you're supposed to take to mean that they're other Two-Spirit folks who are sort of like surrounding the group and sort of giving people like Des and other Two-Spirit people like courage to sort of explore that identity. I also like that it talks a little bit about residential schools and colonialism's place in sort of erasing or like pushing certain customs, like different traditions that Two-Spirit people normally held within communities. It talks a little bit about how residential schools and other colonial like violences have sort of pushed them to the margins, whereas in previous periods they'd have a more central role in community.
Sounds awesome. So my second pick is Say Her Name by Zetta Elliott and Lovey's Wise. So Lovey's Wise is actually the illustrator on this. There's some illustrations that are in it. It is a poetry collection. That's right. I'm breaking through stereotypes here. Kids read poetry. So it's a poetry collection. It's in Zetta essentially engages with female Black poets from the past 2 centuries, such as Nikki Giovanni, as you read through these poems. And it's a celebration of resilience and creativity, and is inspired by the Say Her Name campaign, which is a campaign that sheds a light on police brutality against Black women specifically, because often when we hear about police brutality, it's usually focused on men. And so the Say Her Name campaign is trying to shed a light on Black women, and it's paying a tribute to the victims of police brutality, but also pays tribute to the activists who are championing Black Lives Matter. And so I'm going to show you at least one page because it's really pretty. The poems are lovely. It's perfect for young adults. And this is just an example of some of the illustrations. It's lovely. It's really powerful stuff. And at the back, she actually has a notes section where she indicates for every poem where she actually explains like what line was a specific reference to what poem. And so you can actually gauge how the conversation is happening. And I thought it was really important to showcase poetry because I know that in the past, especially when I worked on like book clubs, adults would be very hesitant to read poetry or would stress out over the fact that they didn't really know how to read poetry. And so by introducing poetry to kids, I think you'll and showing them that there's not really a wrong way to read poetry, but kind of give them a hand in how they can read poetry, and find their own ways of interpreting what's happening on the page. I think it'll help create future poets, or just people who would be lifelong poetry fans. So I highly recommend it. And of course, you know, Black Lives Matter and all of that. Police brutality is not just an American issue, and it's a Canadian issue, especially if you look at our history with the Indigenous community, as you know, evidenced by the books we've been discussing, but also the anti-Black racism that is happening in Canada. Just because it doesn't necessarily manifest in the exact same way as the US, it does happen, as we saw this past summer So it's another reason why it's very important to put this book on your bookshelves.
Awesome. So my next one is Facing the Sun. So this one is a book by Janice Lynn Mather. I remember Mather because it's very close to my last name. It's a book, it's a kind of like a coming of age novel that focuses on four girls who are growing up in Nassau in the Bahamas. And it begins basically with this sort of like foreboding. There's going to be a development, like a hotel development on the communal beach nearby their community, and they're sort of pushed off of the beach. And that sort of begins this like basically a long series of revelations of secrets being revealed, but also like them coming to terms with what it means, what their relationship is to each other, what their relationship is to their communities. It's as like, so I'm of like a Caribbean background, and the scene at the beginning, or just the whole conversation around the tourism industry and who owns the island and who gets to have access to the island is like very familiar to me. Robert De Niro, ask Robert De Niro about his tourism interests. Anyways, but yeah, so yeah, it talks about stuff like that, also about gentrification, but it also it's about the like growing up and the coming of age of all of these girls. It's told in like their four perspectives. So it's another flipping perspective book. I seem to have picked a number of these actually. And in this one, at first it took a little bit, but then once you get into the groove of the novel, which is easy to do because the writing is like super beautiful, you really come to appreciate the distinct point of view of each of the girls, and sort of really start to root for them, even as they like come into contact and clash with each other. So that one is, I loved it. What was the one thing I want to say? Oh, right. I also liked that it really focuses on the Pender Street and the Pender Street community, and how sort of interlinked everyone's lives are. Like you literally, the characters are walking across the yard to someone else's yard. And certain people are doing laundry for other folks. There's one character whose mother basically provides a lot of help for women in the community who can't afford birth control or like tampons or anything like that. So you really see like how the community like supports each other, even in relation to this larger development that sort of threatens it.
My final pick is a fave of mine, Charming as a Verb by Ben Phillip. I loved his first book, The Field Guide to the North American Teenager, and I read this over the summer, and I love it just as much. It is about a character named Henry, aka Halty. He is a charmer. He has a reputation of being likable, and everyone loves being around him. His father is the superintendent of this very posh like apartment building in New York City, and so they live in the basement, so they're not really from money, but he does go to a prestigious prestigious academy of that obviously has a ton of people from a money background, and he's in his final year of high school, and he's trying to get in, and he's very obsessed and desperately wants to get into his school, which is Columbia University. But a classmate of his, Corinne, ends up blackmailing him because he's been conning folks via his dog walking business, which is there's an interesting class conversation with that. but she blackmails him. She's someone who is not susceptible to his charms, and blackmail him into helping her become more sociable so that she gets a better recommendation from her teacher and comes across as a more rounded student. And, you know, as one does, you know, romance develops and feels. And so I really love this book. It is funny. He does a really good job at being witty. I do find that with this book, it really does talk more about race and class, which I find really interesting, especially from the perspective of, because he's first generation Haitian. And so he's dealing with the idea of like that guilt that a child of a first generation parent has in terms of carrying all of their expectations because they've sacrificed so much to give them a better life. I really felt that. And there's also this conversation about the O generation that both he and Corinne have in the book, the idea of that Obama Oprah generation, where for Black kids, either you're exceptional or you don't exist. And I really felt that when I was reading the book. I really could connect with it. It's recommended like for 14 plus. I think it's a great book for teens to read. And it's just delightful, right? You know, I think issue books are very important. But books like this and the mystery book are very good about using like having as much joy as there is talking about the having the hard conversations.
We're going to go from very contemporary to medieval India, basically. Now with my last pick, which is Tanaz Bathena's Hunted by the Sky. Yeah, so it's set in this, it's a fantasy novel, noting the genre, which isn't normally my favorite genre to read, but this one really captured me. It's set in this kingdom called Ambar, and it follows this girl, Gul, who she's born. So in this kingdom, there are magi or magic users, and then there's non-magic users. So magic in this universe is just is a thing that exists, and some people have it and use it for various purposes. The king of this kingdom has a little bit before the story starts, the king has received a prophecy from his squires who tell him that he's going to be defeated by a girl with a star-shaped birthmark. So he sends out his warriors, his sky warriors, as they're called, to capture these girls and drain them of their magic and basically get rid of them. So it turns out that Gul has one of these birthmarks. So it begins with a confrontation between the sky warriors who kill her parents, and she escapes notice and falls in with the Sisters of Golden Lotus, who are this sort of rebel women warriors who train her. And through this, she sort of, she already has the idea of revenge, but it becomes more tangible once she gets this training from the sisters. And then along the way, what would it be without some kind of romance? There is so it really draws attention to like the magic user, non-magic user, like class division. So non-magic users get sort of shunted into these tenements, and she ends up meeting one of them, a boy named Cavis, and they have like an instant connection, and he ends up providing like, he ends up being, he ends up being a key for basically like unlocking her magic, because the running theme of the novel, at least at first, is that she doesn't have much control over her magic and is not really quite sure how to access it, even though people can tell that the force is strong with her, as they would say. So that is Hunted by the Sky. It's really the fact, I mean, a little while ago, it's similar to the series The Reader, which has a similar sort of like high fantasy, but set in like a non-Western context. So this one kind of does similar things, and this was very refreshing, because if you've read a lot of other fantasy, it's typically very like European medieval or very European base, whereas this one, there's a lot of like Hindi words. There's a glossary in the backs for you to like keep track if you don't speak Hindi. And also there's a lot of like Indian and Persian mythology that structures the book. So even though there's like a lot of tropes that are probably pretty familiar, it still puts like a pretty interesting twist on it.
Thank you so much. Again, okay, more notes. What is going on? I have too many books I have to buy now. It's so funny. Hunted by the Sky. I like had it was sitting behind me, and somebody asked for the author's name. It's like, I'm prepared, people. I'm prepared.
Yeah.
So I think we have a lot of people that were mostly interested in middle grade, because that's where a lot of the questions came from. Okay. But somebody just asked right now, would this book in particular be appropriate for kids in a Muslim school?
Oh, that's an excellent question.
I have it, but I haven't read it. Sorry.
Right. No, I'm thinking through it now. I mean, I believe so. It really depends on sort of like the boundaries of like what they consider to be sort of off limits. If you're thinking in terms of like
so not to interrupt you, this person actually wants to know, are there sexual references?
Got you. Okay, that's because there's lots of things about sexuality in it as well. So like that could be something that they might want to consider, because like there's questions about whether God or goddesses or whoever exists. So that might be something that they might, I don't know, wrestle with as well. So there is like kissing. There are references to like there's suggestions of like rape in the book. So that is definitely something to be aware of. Not like super explicit sex scenes or anything like that, but there is like the suggestion of sex for sure.
All right. So I was just going to, I think, kind of like end off this kind of night with when you had to narrow down, right? Because we only gave you 3 picks. Was it really hard to just get the 3? Like, was it hard to find, the best 3, or did you have so much? I feel like what made your, like, I know Ardo was already talking about genre, definitely aware you're trying to give a variety. But was there something else that just, stuck out to you about these books?
So it's interesting because someone also asked if we looked at chapter books specifically. The way we did it was we actually did a list of just overall kid lit, so anything 18 and under by marginalized Canadians, right? That was the criteria. And then we would, and believe it or not, it was not a big list. It's, and I should have added this to the middle grade section. Middle grade of the other 2 is really hard to find.
Yeah.
When you're narrowing it down to Canadian marginalized authors, it's so hard to find. Another category is graphic novels. Really hard to find when you're looking for marginalized Canadian authors. Khary will probably talk about this, but like when it's us trying to find these books, it's not actually easy to find books that are first of all Canadian. It's really hard to find books that are specifically by Canadian authors, especially when you have Americans flooding the system and there's no real way. I don't sell books, but just as someone who just wants to find books, it's really hard, especially because not a lot of authors have a system on their websites where it makes it easy to, like, if they have their catalogs on there and then indicate this is a Canadian author, and then at least I can start my research from there. But it was really hard. For chapter books, honestly, we just made one big list as we come across books. We might have missed books again, because it's really hard to find books, but it was so easy to, when you just made it Canadian, so many of the books were by, white Canadians or, white cis het Canadians. But when you start to say marginalized Canadians, even like, it was really hard. But we would have added a chapter book if we had come across one. It wasn't like it wasn't so strict that we couldn't add it.
Right. And also the fact that we were limiting ourselves with like maybe one or two exceptions to this year of publications. So that kind of like narrows the pool down quite a bit. Um, yeah, I mean, as someone who does sell books, it can be difficult to find like a coherent system that like is foolproof for finding Canadian authors. Like the system that we use at the store does have a function that allows you to search by Canadian author, but those labels seem to be not necessarily be applied consistently, or like who is considered a Canadian author really fluctuates depending on like who you ask. Like some of these folks we've talked about were born somewhere else, but they live here. So at some point they qualify as Canadian. So it can be kind of difficult to parse. But yeah, especially middle grade and chapter books, especially even outside of just narrowing it down by year, it's something that we at the store constantly are trying to think about because people are asking, and there are chapter books out there that are by marginalized authors, but a lot of them are American. The majority are, and there are those few here and there, but we didn't really see too many. That was like own voices coming out this year.
Thank you so much. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, one last thing. I will shout out in terms of graphic novels. Highwater Press is doing a fantastic job with Indigenous graphic novels. And as I already mentioned, Inhabit Media is doing a great job for like picture books by Indigenous authors. They're specifically getting Inuit authors to write the books and then have non-Indigenous non-Indigenous people, for the most part, illustrating them.
Perfect, because I feel like as like I'm a parent, I'm a teacher, I'm a librarian, and I always feel like, what am I missing? You know, like, am I not looking hard enough? Where are the books? And so as, you know, experts in the field, like when we hear from you that you're also having a hard time finding these books, not that it makes me feel better about it, but it's like, yeah, we need these books. And so we just want more of them. But that's why I sometimes buy American titles if I can't find a Canadian. So, so much talk about books. I feel like we need an after event that's just like talking more about these actual books. But this is the end of our event. Thank you, Ardo, so much. And Khary, I got to meet you because of this event. And as soon as you said, fantasy's not really my favorite, I was like, we're best friends. Sometimes I read a good fantasy and then I'm like, oh, I do like fantasy.
Yeah,
sometimes.
exactly.
So, yeah, we're book friends. I love it. Thank you so much for chatting with us. Just for everyone out there, I want to give you lots of details so you know what's happening next. The list of titles that were featured tonight will be shared along with the recording after the festival. So if you didn't write them all down, they're coming to you. You will find that recording on our new virtual event section of the FOLD website. If you enjoyed this event, how did you not enjoy this event? Yes, you did. You want to come back. Check out 2 upcoming panel events. So we have This Really Happened. It's a panel that features 3 authors whose books were mentioned in this session. And then also we have Cherishing Indigenous Languages in picture books. So Indigenous languages coming up Friday night. This Really Happened Saturday night. I think I'm in the background on both of those, so can't wait for, you know, all the greatness. Now, you want to be shopping for all of these books. So if you want to get the FOLD Kids Bookfest 2020 books, you're going to get free shipping, people. Free shipping. Because of the FOLD Kids program, you're going to get the program. You're going to get the mask. You're going to get stickers. You're going to get buttons. You're going to get bookmarks. Like when you open the envelope, it's just going to all pour out onto your table, and you're going to be so happy. And this is all because of our free shipping provided by Simon & Schuster when you order from Another Story Bookshop. It's all coming together. It's full circle. Khary at Another Story, and then free shipping. And now, pay attention. This is only available till October 4th. So get your credit card ready. teachers, you get 20% off. I believe that's because if you're doing an order through your school, so they'll take that off when you place the order.
Yep.
I also want to finish by thanking our generous sponsors that are sponsoring our FOLD Kids Book Fest. You saw a little slide there with all of our sponsors. We can't do it without our sponsors, so thanks so much. You want to be a sponsor, just let us know. Thanks so much, everybody, and it was just a great night. Thank you, Ardo and Khary, again, and come back all weekend. We've got events all weekend. Check it out, thefold.org. Yay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.